evening, everybody. Sorry about the delay. Technical difficulties that change the password. So that those who are streaming to the Paris. Let's start with something. To worship Him. We have come into this house, gathered in His name to worship Him. We have come into this house, gathered in His name to worship Him. Christ, oh, as we gather here this evening, strengthen us, direct us, fill our hearts, sustain us, watch over us, follow our steps in your word. Help us to be people you want us to be. Above all, Lord Jesus, help us to be loyal, faithful children, servants, disciples, all the days of our life. That we know you above all things and love you above all things. Never find you mindless. Now have your way in our lives. In Jesus' precious name. Amen. I just want to say a few words by introduction so that you make the connection from the past and you understand where we're heading to in terms of the future, in terms of what's happening in the text. In chapter 13 and chapter 14 of John's Gospel, Jesus has waited until Judas has left the room before he begins to talk about the pathway that leads to glory. He has made certain points already. He has told us that that way requires sacrificial love, a willingness to literally get down on the floor and do the lowest work for the lowest slave in the house. We've seen that he told them that his word is already made them clean, but not all of them. The person he's referring to when he says not all of them is Judas. And we saw that after Jesus gave Judas the morsel of bread, we are told that he went out and it was night, darkness. And I told you that darkness literally prevails the text right straight through until you get to the day of the resurrection. When Mary is making her way to the graveyard, it says, while it was still dark, she was on her way to the graveyard. We see that Jesus has left the place of the table, and they are now beginning the journey to the place of prayer. There are some authors, unfortunately, who take seriously the shift that is taking place. But I often say to people when I do Bible study, when you move from Holy Communion, the next place is the place of prayer. As we not only venture out into the world, but venture out to face the world. You're not going to face it in your own might and in your own strength. And Jesus has not only fed them at the Last Supper, but he is now trying to prepare their hearts and minds to move to the place of prayer so that they may have the strength to face what is about to happen. I often say to people, a praying church is a powerful church. If you don't pray, we're going to be in serious trouble. When the storms and the billows of life come, and if we're not praying, believe me, people, there are going to be plenty lives destroyed, shattered, thrown upon the rocks, because we didn't ground people in faith and in prayer. And I really believe that if Jesus had to do this for his disciples before he was crucified, then I believe the same thing must be true for us. Because every last one of us is going to face some sort of crisis in this life. You better believe it. Something to rock the boat. Okay? Last week, when we were going through our mission services, I said to myself, well, trouble comes from above, the rains that fell, they come from below, the floods that rise, they come from either side, the winds beating against our house. But if your life is not built in prayer, in the word, in the sacraments, in fellowship, in your personal witness. In fact, when we get to the end of chapter 15, Jesus says that there are two things he's given them that will help them, that they will desperately need. And I hope you make a note of it when we get to the end. Okay? So that's my introduction for tonight. And when we get into the text, I'm going to spend some more time talking about some passages from the Old Testament. It's sad that many times we do not spend enough time in the Old Testament. I'm going to say this to you all. Come January 2023, if you're still here, those of you all who can afford it and be a part of it, when the Anglican Theological Institute begins to broadcast again, start a brand new year, I'm going to invite you all to participate in the classes. They're on Saturdays from 8 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock. And then there are classes being offered on Mondays so that you can have a chance to get into the biblical studies. I do the sermon on the Old Testament. And my notes are very comprehensive. I cover every book, most of the books of the Old Testament, with a full commentary just like you get in Bible study week after week. And I can tell you right now, if you had to pay for a book that would do all of that, it costs you a fortune. All right? So I'm going to suggest to you all you start putting aside a couple of dollars, and you'll get some family members who, they're already generous at Christmas time, buying you some useless gifts that you always got to try to return to the store without them knowing. Tell them, just give me the cash. I want to go back to school. I want to learn something that's going to help me. And I think it'll probably be the greatest gift that they ever give to you. So come January, please begin to save up so that you can be a part of the ATI. And if you want to ask me about it after we finish coming off the set, I'd be more than happy to let you know. Okay? I'm sure there's some people already posing questions on the thing. We have too many Anglicans, and see, the thing that frightens me is that people, it's obvious that you cannot eat from every bowl. Hello? Rockfish look just like grouper. Or I can tell you right now, from personal experience, if that rockfish poison, you will live to tell the tale. And you know that kind of experience before? Oh, yes. So you know what I'm talking about. Okay? So we got to make sure that we as Anglicans are eating from the proper place. You don't pick a bowl out of scrap stuff and Don't think that you come back to haunt you back. So please, we gotta make sure we do that. Somebody, please come and read chapter 15 for us, and then I will start the class.
I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself, unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me, and I in them, bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into fire, and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you, so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that we love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I call you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you every last in my name. I am giving you these commandments so that you may love one another. If the world hates you, be aware that it hated me before it hated you. If you belong to the world will love you as its own. Because you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, servants, I'm not greater than their master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. But they will do all these things to you on account of my name, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned. But now they have no excuse for their sin. Whoever hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done among them the works that no one else did, they would not have sinned. But now they have seen and hated both me and my Father. It was to fulfill the word that is written in their law. They hated me without cause. When the advocate comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth who comes from the Father, he will testify on my behalf. You also are to testify because you have taken me from the beginning. Word of the Lord.
Thanks.
Within the pages of the Old Testament, there are some passages that help us to understand this whole concept of the vine being the people of God. I've listed most of them there for you. Psalm 80, verse 8 to 16. Put a star next to the passage from Isaiah chapter 5, verses 1 to 7. In Isaiah chapter 5, verses 1 to 7, we are told there's a waltz. And this is your fortune. Somebody looking after your back. In Isaiah chapter 5, verses 1 to 7, Isaiah says, God brought this choice vine, and he planted it in the promised land, built a hedge around it, built a wine press, gave it the best spot in the world. Nothing was wrong with the vine. The vine had everything it needed to produce what it was supposed to produce. But instead of it producing what it's supposed to, it produced sour grapes. And after investing all of that into that vine, God is disappointed because he expected something good to come out of that vine. The vine did its own thing. When you get to the passage from Jeremiah, you have the same repeated idea. Ezekiel tells us exactly the same thing. I listed those passages from out of Ezekiel. And Hosea is probably one of the prophets who uses this concept of the vine. Israel is a luxuriant vine. But the grapes are just sour. Something was wrong. And I want you to even see that when you get to the Apocrypha, the Maccabean families put on their coins a vine to remind God's people that even when it came to their money, that they are vine chosen by God in order to produce what needed to be done. Some people talk about it as idolatry. We'll get to that when we get to dealing with the Apocrypha. I've listed on that front page to you what is true about most of those passages that come in the New Testament. The first is this, people. God is the faithful vine grower who planted his people in the most advantageous position where they should produce the best that they possibly could. There's nothing wrong with the ground. There's nothing wrong with where he planted them. There is nothing wrong with the slope or the gradient of the land. None of that. The original vine, excellent condition. God tended that vine, looked after it, gave it everything it needed. But the problem is the vine proved to be faithless. And as a result of that, it produced the sour grapes. God, we are told in these Old Testament passages, that God will let their enemies and the wild animals break the barriers, the protective barriers down. He will allow the foreigners to come in and eat up all their fruit. So instead of them, you labor hard and somebody else take your stuff and go with it. Sorry, give a little answer. Okay? There's some people always taking after you leave in your garden, don't you go, it's gone. You come with a bunch of bananas in the back of the yard, and the next morning you get it, it disappeared overnight. But one thing is sure, that God takes away the protective wall so that the foreigners and the wild animals can take advantage of the vineyard. And there are plenty of people who cry out, "Foul, God, foul! You're not supposed to let that happen." And God says, "I'm going to let it happen so I can teach you a lesson." The point is this, that in the end of the day, the only one who can save that vine and who will bring it back to life is God and God. In order to understand what Jesus is getting at, if you look at the first 10 verses, the first verse tells us what Jesus says about himself. He says, "Now them vines in the past proved to be untrue, but I am the true vine. Okay? And my Father is the vine grower." And that "and" in the Greek literally means you can't have one without the other. In other words, I am the vine, but I can tell you right now, everything you see happening with that vine is not because the vine decided, "Shoot, I'm going to do my own thing and run all over the place." No, no, no. It's under the guidance and under the direction of the vine grower. In other words, it is God the Father who has absolute control and sway over not only his life, but the life of the branches as well that are joined to that vine. That's the first thing we have to recognize. The problem with the vines in the Old Testament is that they went off and did their own thing. They refused sometimes to even listen to God. And not only is the vine grown under the watchful eyes and hands of God, but whatever happens in terms of its growth, maturity, and production, all of it, I hope you underline it on your note sheet, is God given, God directed, God empowered, God ordered. In short, people, we don't call the shots. It is God who has to call the shots for the vine to produce what it's supposed to produce. And I will maintain to the very day that I die, the problem with much of the church today is that we do our own thing rather than tuning in and listening. Hello? And we're not being as productive as we could. Because somewhere down the line, we've discovered that we're more brilliant than God. Not so people. Being there, done that. That's what the people of the Old Testament did. That's why they messed up. And it's not just the people, but it was also the hand of the kings. The leadership had gone astray. In other words, what I'm trying to get across to all this evening is this. The Christian life is not due to what you do and I do, how we spin things, how we get certain things. And let me say this to you already. On the side of your paper, write this down. We have a way of measuring success by our standards. You tell me what are some of the ways that the church in the 21st century measure success? Size of the congregation.
Size of the building.
Size of the building. Hold on, I'll get in the front. The amount of offerings, how much money they take in. What else? who they're affiliated with in the upper echelon of society. That's what you're trying to say? The snobby club. The monkey monks who already messed everything up. What else? How long has it been around? Come on, there's lots more. Who in charge? What title they got? How many titles they got? How many degrees they have? Hello? How much work in the house?
Fan windows.
Stained glass windows in the place. Amen. High Balkans. That's right. Air conditioning too. What? The size of the choir. Where you got professional singers. Where everybody can read music. You don't have people inside there making a joyful noise for the Lord. They got to be making a perfect noise for the Lord. Come on. So duck it in. Don't duck it, man. That's confession is good for the soul. Yeah, how many members you got? How many you buried? I've never seen people come from people. How many are from which are not three? Oh, we had 4 this week. We got another 2 next week. Boy, that's an accomplishment. Maybe come today. Yes. How long they been here? They faithful members. Some of them being so good to the church, we bury them on a Sunday. Anyway, before we get carried away, let's the point is this. That's not God's standard. God's standard is, are we so wrapped up in His hands? Are our lives being so ordered by Him? Are our steps guided by His light and by His word? Are we moving daily? And is He able to carry out what He needs to do in terms of our lives to get us right where He wants us to be? Jesus is not trying to comfort His disciples. I've read so many commentaries that tell me, oh, Jesus is trying to comfort His disciples by this discourse. He is not. In fact, He is trying to prepare them for the road that lies ahead, because He's saying to them, if I'm the true vine and my life is in the palm of my Father's hand, and He's directed my course, my journey, everything that I've done up to this particular point, He's carried me through thick and thin, He's taken me to great heights, He's carried me down to the depths, then what is He saying about us as His disciples? We're going to experience the same thing. And so Jesus now says to them, if I am the true vine, and you are the branches that are connected to me, then your life must be what? Not only bounded in Jesus, totally focused, because who's doing the guiding? Who, praise the Lord. Who's doing the directing? Who's training the vine? In other words, it is God who is doing it all. And if we're not willing and ready to do that, then we're going to mess up the vine just like they did in the pages of the Old Testament. What was the task of the vine grower? Why did Jesus in verse 1 talk about this Bible reading of mine. I put down on page 2 and page 3 of your notes some very important details. Put a box around it, put stars next to it so you never forget it. The vine grower's task was to make sure that where there were branches that were weak, he needed to prop them up to help them. Oh, wow. So the next time you sing, I will be weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I want you to remember that. God knows we weak. That's why he has to handle us. Some of us need to kick yet to get us where he wants us to be. The vine grower, he removes the excess leaves. Okay? The fluff. I want you to put that word down. Fluff on your paper. And let's face it, we got plenty fluff in Christianity. What's fluff? You tell me what's fluff. Excess. Excess. Dennis goes to the airport, he can tell you about excess. He can tell you about excess a lot of people around this time of the year. Oh, August. That's when you really see it. That's when they claim you only spend $300 on 6 and 7 duffel bags. 6 and 7 and 8 feet long. It was a sale, free market. Pardon? Get the picture? And the excess is sometimes the things we get involved in that has nothing to do with the real thing. I have a friend by the name of Bishop Bill Atwood. And he used to tell the vestry when he would come to visit us at St. Barnabas, let the main thing be the main thing. Write it down somewhere. Let the main thing be the main thing. If we deal with the gospel, you know, all the fluff and all the rest of it, people stop concentrating on the fluff. Are we getting the message across? Are people moving in the direction they need to go? Are they listening to the instructions from God? Do they want their lives ordered by Him? Or has it become nothing more than a big social event? Okay? I might as well tell you, I met many people in my lifetime who love fluff. They would spend days decorating the church. But they never get to the stage of coming in and enjoying the worship and giving God glory. That can even make sense. I prefer you to concentrate on your relationship with God rather than fluff. Ooh, how do you even say that just now? Yes. Okay. I've watched churches spend fortunes when it comes to the tool festivals. They got to drape the entire place down. They got too much cloth, the place is hot as hell. Because the whole air conditioning can't get past all the cloth and all the materials. We want people to come so they can hear the word of God, to be moved on to another level, to another plane. Okay? I don't know how to take that song of Lord, plant my feet. You sure about that? stay right in the platform. It's got to be higher ground. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Let's go on. The vine grow's task was to remove the dead branches. Now, you say to yourself, oh, that dead branches, suffering. That's not true. Dead branches can easily become a source of leakage from a plant. It's best to remove them so that they don't become a source of infection, they don't become a source of sucking necessary nutrients out of the plant to go to a dead end journey. So people can check on them. If your rose tree has dead branches, you don't let them stay there. What do? You clip them off. You cut them off. And the same thing must be true about the vine grower. There's certain dead things in our lives that gotta go.
Wait.
Huh?
Wait.
Dead weight too. There's some dead people that need to go too. Some dead friends that ain't helping you. They're draining on you and draining on your resources. There's some people who need your job when you got it. And then they become your barracuda when you don't have it. Hello? So you're laughing away behind those masks. But the point is this, that he tends to the vine. And people, this, I never forget. When I went to France, I was about 15 years old. We had the opportunity to go into a vineyard. And I always expected the vineyard to have the trees. You know, when you look at the pictures inside the books, they always have the vines going all the way up higher here. And I kept saying to them, this is a tree. That's it. Only goes so high. And you know why they keep the vine going like that? Because all that excess stuff that has the tendency to reach up and flower and do all the rest of that, they cut all of that down low. So it forces the plant to produce fruit and spend the energy on producing fruit. People listen carefully. The vine grower must keep the vine low to the ground so that he can improve its productivity. The next time you grumble about how you didn't get it in the upper echelon and you didn't succeed at this and you didn't get that promotion and whatnot, I want you to turn it around and change the language and say, Lord, thank you for keeping me low to the ground because you helped me to produce the fruit that you want. Hallelujah. If that's what it takes, God, I want to be fruitful for you. Keep me close to the ground. Remember what Jesus says throughout the gospel mission. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled. He will bring them down. But those who humble themselves, he will exalt. I hope you put that down somewhere so you will pray on the side of the page. Lord, I'm going to stop complaining about you keeping me low to the ground. Hallelujah. Because you want me to be productive. The rest of the world, you know, I told you all the story that Father Clifton Russell told me, for the congregation in Bangladesh. He said, you know, the pumpkin was grown on the ground, and the bean that was grown up on the fence looked down at the poor pumpkin and he said, oh, poor pumpkin, I feel so sorry for you. Look, you only did it. And look at me. I'm just climbing up higher and higher. And the pumpkin said, the beans said, don't worry. One day, you and I will meet in the same place in the pot. So stop fooling yourself, you're really better than anybody else. God will his purpose in mind. He's to keep the branches connected to the vine, either by grafting them in or by making sure that he binds them into the branch to keep them strong. He is to make sure that he sets the pace of the growth and development of the plant and to look out for the general maintenance of the plant. In other words, our abiding relationship in Jesus will require us to go through some things that we may not necessarily like to happen. Cutting, pruning, getting rid of the excess, getting rid of this, that, and the other. Let me tell you, it's amazing. I told them the story of there's a priest that wrote a book about Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa made it clear that she wanted to do her PhD. And the people from her order turned around, knowing fully well that's what she wanted to do. And they deliberately sent her to India to work in the ghettos, in the slums. At first she resented it, because it meant that all of her dreams, all of her hopes, everything that she had thought she was going to accomplish and achieve, gone. And then one day she woke up and she realized that Jesus said to her, if you want to succeed, you have to be like me. You have to humble yourself, deny yourself, and come after me. There were plenty days when she got despondent, there were plenty days when she even lost faith. But I can say this to you all, she learned something far more important than she would learn in the classroom somewhere. And that is that God uses real life situations to bring out the best in us for generations to come. Jesus knew that he was calling his disciples to the path of the vine. And he reminded them, apart from me, you can do nothing. You will achieve nothing. You will accomplish nothing. And he goes on and tells them, as the Father has loved me, and I have loved you, so I expect you not only to love me, but to love one another. And by your love, you will prove that you are my disciples. Bearing fruit and loving at the same time is what is required of every disciple of Jesus. In the second segment, verses 11 to 17, we have the movement from servants to becoming friends of the King. The first fruit of that abiding relationship with Jesus and the vine is one of joy. And I want to say to you all, make sure you put a star next to the word joy, and you put down these words. In joy, in happiness, and in sorrow. In happiness and in sorrow. In other words, whatever happens, whatever goes on around you, remember this, the joy that God produces in your life does not depend upon circumstances and situations. That that joy keeps you going. It's there when you feel confident and when you are fearful. It's there when your whole world is crumbling around you and when you see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's joy. You just close the eyes. Give me a second, please. Lesson 1, 2, 3. I've deliberately pointed out the extremes because the problem is most people think you only show joy when things go in your way, when life is comfortable, when it's easy. See, joy is when you can stand in the bow of the boat while the waves roar and the sky looks great, and everything looks all black, and stand there and say, I can smile in this storm because Jesus is in this vessel with me. And that, my dear family, is not easy. The second thing that Jesus says is that he commands his disciples to make sure that they love one another. Love one another. Not only is he showing that the love values be at the table for the Last Supper, but he's telling them, we're going down to the cross, we're going down to the suffering, we're going down the pain. They didn't understand what he was saying, but what Jesus was trying to say is, this is the way that you show love. Does he know, thank you, let's flirt here a bit and do you want to do? No, this is a costly love. A love that will cost you something. And then he uses a term which some of us struggle with, and that's friends. There were a group of people who hang out around the king. And normally, they should have been people who would give the king sound advice. When you hear this term of friend being used, there are two forms of friendship that I want you to go back in your mind. The first is the friendship between David and Jonathan. Despite the fact that Saul, Jonathan's father, wanted to kill David, what can you tell me about Jonathan's friendship with David? Did he let his father destroy him, or did he try his best to look after the well-being of his friend? He looked after David. Not only that, he recognized the fact that God's hand was on David. That's why he could tell David, when you become king, you make sure you look after my children and my descendants after me. And they made a vow and a promise to do just that. When Saul got angry and tossed the spear at David, it was Jonathan that told him, go and hide. It's Jonathan who made petitions for him. It was Jonathan who his own daddy almost tried to pin to the wall with his spear. In other words, he was willing to lay down his life for David. The next example that you have in the biblical tradition of friends is that of the friends of Rehoboam, Solomon's son. Now let me tell you something about what happened. When Solomon passed away, and I need to say this to you all, because there are plenty of people who glorify Solomon. But you all belong to the Lord, please forgive me. You need to understand that Solomon made a good king. He built a little small house of the Lord, but his palace was 7 times the size of his house. And not only that, his foreign wives. You know, when you got 300 wives and 700 concubines trying to live under the country, he was a cultivated crazy man. A crazy man.
Not a wise man.
Not a wise choice either. And in order to keep them happy, he dropped all of his spiritual and ethical rules. He threw them out. And he had his wives build their shrines on top of the palace roof so that they could worship the God of the heavens, the God of the earth, the God of whatever they happen to bring. And they led poor Solomon astray. They taxed the living daylights of the children of Israel. And in order to try and get the monies back, what they did is that they taxed the people in the north heavier than the people in the south. So when Solomon died, the people came to Rehoboam the son and said to him in the north, listen, if you want to be king over us, you better try to get this good from Father. Reduce the kind of living you carrying on with, and we will be more than happy to serve under you. He goes back, and the old men from his father's council, he consulted them, and they said to him, well, if you want to keep the throne, you better listen. And he decided, I can have the same luxury of my father. And so he went to his younger friends. And his younger friends told him, no, go back and tell them, my daddy cut your tail with whips, but I can beat you all with scorpions. And the 10 tribes in the north said, oh, really? He kissed this kingdom goodbye, and the kingdom split into 2. 2 tribes went to Rehoboam in the south, and became known as Judah. And the 10 tribes in the north became known as Israel. And the 2 were divided right at the very end. They never reunited because of friends. Oh, Jesus. Can you take your mask down, too?
It's always affection in my mind with regard to the song and the real Jericho story, right? Now, I know you know the song really turned out to be a key. Do you think that could have been avoided? Because now David, the prince was passed down on David for having the Uriah killed.
Yes. So you're saying because of David's action with Bathsheba, that Solomon being, and then don't forget Bathsheba also twisted David's arm when he was old and senile and got him to agree to make Solomon king. But you see, the problem starts long before that. If you go back in the biblical tradition, it starts off with the story of Samuel. And it says that the people came to Samuel at Horeb and said to him, we want a king like the other nations. And the minute they said that, the problem is that they have rejected the king who is God who rules over them. The priests mess up. Eli and his two sons, Phineas and Hophnius, they were so crooked that people got sick and died. They didn't believe the religious leaders had anything to do with running their country. They wanted a king like everybody else. And the minute they stepped out on that road to be like the other nations, that was their downfall. Because they were peculiar people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people being brought out of Egypt and settled them into the promised land. And the problem is that as you go along, from Saul to David to Solomon, you see them gathering this harem around them. You're going to have more than one wife, more than two wives, more than three wives. You get the Solomon, you got 300 wives, 700 concubines under the same roof. And then the first wife that he married was from Egypt. And she says, oh, excuse me, I don't need to live with the rest of these. I need to have my own place. So you get preferential treatment to a group of people who want to oppress you. You see what the problem is? So you're following the ways of the rest of the world, but you're not following God's way. And you lose track. Someone who you're not married to is still living under your roof, who services your needs. Huh? Under the same roof. Of course. If the house, how can we big enough to accommodate 1,000 women? Why is it you have to be in some house? You gotta look at what else they have to do to accommodate that many women in one house. Because if you're gonna have servants and guards and slaves, many of the children of Israel, you would have to have converted them into eunuchs. Because once they were inside the palace, you didn't know who was doing the hanky-panky. All right? And don't forget, people, according to Deuteronomy chapter 22, that anytime you had a eunuch or somebody whose testicles had been crushed or who had something happen to them, they would automatically be excluded from worship in the temple. So they would never see the inside of the temple. They would see the inside of the palace, but the children would be making it to no worship place. Yeah. It was intentional. They forced people. Both. And don't forget, continued right out into the New Testament. Many of the emperors who 14 of the 16 emperors were homosexuals, so they had the little boys castrated, then walked them out the and married them. Oh, yeah. Yes, let's go on before you get shocked. In other words, you have these two different ideas of friendship from all the Old Testament that automatically will come to mind when Jesus started to speak about friendship. And what you need to understand is that close friends, friends who are interested in the well-being of the king, of those in leadership roles, they would keep them close to them so they could consult them. so that they would share conversations, discussions, decisions, and they were supposed to help their leader come to the right conclusion. Servants, they have no idea what's going on. They just hear model being yellow. Move that, take that across there, do that. But a friend should know the master intimately so that they can understand what is required of keeping that friend and that friendship moving in the right direction. What is clear is that Jesus is telling his disciples, don't kid yourself. You didn't come for me. I chose you. And I've chosen you for this life in the vine, so you could produce the fruit that I want. And bear fruit that must prove to be my disciples. The last few verses of this chapter deals with facing the world's hatred. Jesus knew that the minute his disciples identified with the vine, lived a life in solidarity with the vine, operated under God's guidance, a life that was God directed, God given, God ordered, he knew that they were going to face the same hatred that he faced. And this hatred began long time as John's gospel. We see it even in Jesus' own family, in John chapter 7. Remember, his brothers mocked him. And when your own family starts to mock you, oh Jesus, you know you're in trouble. And Jesus realized the same thing happened before. So he tells them, remember this. The servant is not above the master. If they do this to me, they will do it to you. He says, if you live like the world will love you. The world will accept you. But he tells his disciples, if they choose the pathway of the vine, they're going to experience the same thing, the same ridicule, the same persecution, the same heartache and heartbreak, the same hatred that the world had for him. That's how St. John's Gospel opens. You will recall in chapter 1, verse 10. He was in the world was made by him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own received him not. But as many that received him, gave he power for them to become what? The sons and the daughters of the children of God. Not by water, not by any other thing, but by the will of God. Jesus says, I'm going to leave two things to help you. The Paraclete, or the Comforter, who will guide the disciples into the truth that comes from the Father. And the second thing he says, I'm going to give you to each other so that you could be a source of encouragement. To those who face the world's hatred around them. Being support to the persons who are around you. Sometimes people can be very difficult because sometimes you have to tell some people to go back and put your foot down, stand your ground. Don't be afraid. One of the things my friends constantly tell me is that, also being like you know how to fight. You know how to maneuver. And I said, well, you're not going to learn if you get up and stand up as a child of God. You got to stand your ground. Even if you got to stand alone. I never said it was. But it's not going to stop you from telling you to go back. Deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it now, all you do is swirl. And what you threw to the wind will become a whirlwind. And in our case, that whirlwind will become a hurricane. And you know what happened when hurricanes hit? Hey, they do what? Destroy everything. Everything in its path. And we have to be willing to stand our ground. I've left at the bottom of the page certain things that we can conclude, because when we get to chapter 16 next week, Jesus' disciples will win very few popularity contests. The way forward for the disciple is not going to be easy. So those people looking for easy work, I get really upset when I watch TV and they tell me, oh, it's all hunky-dory, it's all going to be fine, it's okay. Just rebuke it, don't say it, don't claim it, don't speak it. People, I don't care what you do. You and I were born for a life of trouble if we belong to Jesus. You will get trouble. But don't doubt it. Right? You stand there in the name of Jesus as much as you want to. Jesus answer back there in my name. You go to play names for my name. Okay? It's a costly way. Yes. Okay? Is actually a lawyer. Lawyer. But this is a special kind of lawyer. This is a lawyer that gets you into trouble. Okay? He can lie to you. He can tell you the truth. And he can press you on. Remember, I don't know if you were here a couple of weeks ago when I told them that when we talk about the Holy Spirit as a comforter. You were here? Huh? Who was in here? You were here? Let me go to this quickly.
You forget the comforter.
The rod and the staff, they comfort me. I tried to find out to the people who were here. The rod is like a paddle, like the stick that you use to cricket. And what you used to do is to take it and spike the sheep on their bottom as they got on the line so that they could get back in line and finish. The staff usually had a hook at the end. So that when the sheep fell over the side of the cliff or decided to go wandering into the water too deep, the shepherd would then grab hold with a hook on the end, put it around his neck, and pull it to safety. And I told them in both cases, they are not instruments of comfort. Not in the 20 words used to the word of the 21st century. Many of y'all read that, oh, comfort is here. You know, like Jesus coming to send the Holy Spirit to rock us to sleep. No. And I pointed out to them that when they were doing some excavations in the city of Rome, they found this huge picture on the ground where there was a general holding a set of spears in his hand, shouting and giving commands, and the spears were in the back of the soldiers. And the caption at the bottom of the picture said, "The general comforts his soldiers." In other words, comfort means that he was put in the spear never. Ain't no retreat. Press forward. Let's go. Let's move. You ain't coming back. Not this way. And you better get on with what needs to be done. Encouragement, I'd say yes, but a little bit more than encouragement. I literally pushing you into it. Oh God, the solution. I tell you, that's life-threatening. Some of us will stand and will stench against God, the Holy Spirit. No, God, no. And I might as well tell you, God put you in some spots. Only God can get you out, yeah? But the wonderful thing is that sometimes in the midst of all the storms, you can feel joy and laugh. Because you know He's going to use it for good. I want to take your bread. Here we are. So the next time you're in trouble and you feel that divine nudge keeping you going, I might go over sometimes and say, Jesus, slow up, man. But you better believe you ain't coming back this way. I'm the same way. You're going to change as you move forward. Yes, Dennis. Mm-hmm. The word they say that they use when used a couple times in the Bible, but also the one said that no one can come follow the Spirit draws them. And the conversation we had in it is like I was saying, like they're following, that they're being born. Any number of times you have been born. Oh yeah. I was telling you in the fall, like they let stand and not walking around. You literally get tired. Oh yeah. And you get dragged in many times by Jesus. The Holy Spirit just drags us into that relationship with Him. Some of us resist, some of us don't want to go, and then some of us, the Holy Spirit, come, let's go. Comfort. Move it. Move it. The same word is used when you're talking about Peter was named one of the tribunal or whatever. He used the same big word. You all know like they didn't move down to the second stage. And they call it eternal hell for standing up to bring the Gentiles into the church and answer the apostles. Okay, that's an awkward situation here. Don't forget, when they were on the missionary journeys, the first place they went for was wherever the Jews gathered. It went well for the first week. The second week, when everybody turned out, jealousy started to run high. And the third week, they had to run. Okay? And I find that, honestly, you read some of the stories out of Acts, and there's a story in Acts that really frightens me. Where St. Paul, they drive him out of the city, they stone him, and leave him for dead. And we're told that as the crowd disappeared, he got up, knocked the dust off, and went right back into the city. And when I tell you, some of us have said, that's my ticket all the time. I go. I'm full of that. Okay? So next week will be our last week. I need to take a break from you. All right? So we come back to this all fresh come September. Okay? Father in heaven, we thank you for the journey thus far. Help our feet not to become weary in moving forward. And Lord Jesus, just for good measure. Let your Holy Spirit provoke us to good works, so that you may receive the honor, the glory, and the praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You were supposed to talk about something?